Happy Thursday. This is the second Lunch and Learn in our Lunch and Learn webinar series. We're going to do some quick introductions here in a moment, but just to set the stage, today we're talking all things teacher retention and how Talking Points can help with teacher retention at your school through one of the lesser known avenues. We're going to share some research with you on teacher retention, current stats, and then some best practices and ways that we know to help out with that at your school. So I'm Jamie Paulson. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager for Talking Points. That little beauty there is my daughter, Hayden. I have been in the ed tech industry for about 10 years. And previous to that, I was a public school teacher and loved it. I love everything to do with education. I love being in ed tech. And I love doing work that connects families and schools so that students have better outcomes in the future as well. And I'm going to let my partner introduce himself. This is Andrew.
Hi, everybody. Andrew Unright. I'm the Director of Sales for Talking Points. That's my daughter, Harper. Our family has been successfully supporting the orthodontist industry since 2015. And there's a little telltale example of that there. I was a classroom teacher for 13 years as well, and then did 2 years as a building administrator. So similar to Jamie's perspective, always looking through the lens of how can we help solve challenges and issues that are faced by folks like yourselves on a regular basis. And today's topic is definitely one of them. Definitely one of them.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're gonna lay out the facts first, talk a little bit about the lay of the land and what's going on. I think everyone knows that teacher retention is definitely an issue going on, but here are some alarming and maybe surprising statistics that you may not have known. So 200,000 plus teachers leave the profession every year. And of those, 2/3 say that they leave for a reason other than retirement, which means they may take new job opportunities. They may decide to just take a break from the profession. We're not quite sure what it is that they're going to do, but it's important to note that there is an exodus happening from the school systems, and teachers are finding other ways to leave. Also, teacher turnover increased 4 percentage points above pre-pandemic levels, reaching 10% nationally at the end of the 21-22 school year. So this one's especially surprising because we know that during the pandemic, there was a lot of stress on teachers. We would have expected that stress to have people maybe reconsidering, but it's risen past the pre-pandemic years, and it's becoming a trend that just continues to go up. And then this one was surprising. So that we see teachers leaving, we hear about teachers leaving, but what's the actual dollar amount associated with that? So the National Commission on Teaching and America's Future estimated that the national cost of public school teacher turnover could be over 7.3 billion with a B a year. So $7.3 billion a year is what it's costing for these teachers to leave the profession. So what do? We know that it's an issue. We know that teachers are leaving. We know that there's a lot of reasons that teachers might be leaving, but where can we start to actually make improvements and help to guide that teacher retention strategy? So this is a very interesting study from Merrimack College in 2022. Like I'm missing my image, but when they surveyed teachers that were most likely to leave the profession and least likely to leave the profession, there was an interesting finding that I wanted to share. So when they asked teachers, how respected do you feel by your parents? How confident do you feel in your relationship with your parents? The teachers who said that they were very unlikely to leave the teaching profession within the next 2 years, that they were 84%. The 84% felt respected by parents and families in their school, versus the teachers that said that they were very likely to leave within 2 years. They said that only 58% of them felt respected by the parents in their school. So huge disparity in the numbers there. It really points to the trend that when teachers feel respected and appreciated and in sync with families and the community, they're more likely to stay in the profession. We also did an impact survey here at Talking Points with users of our product, families of our product. We surveyed over 1,500 teacher users and 1,500 family users. And this was an important finding that we found as well. So 90% of families said that they feel more confident in talking to teachers using Talking Points, and that they have more confidence in their child's teacher. So building that trust, building the relationship with a tool that we know can build the positive relationships. And then the 3 improvements for students due to Talking Points, according to educators, were classroom behavior, classroom engagement, and homework completion. But the next one is the one I really want to focus on. So of the families that were surveyed, families that said the top 3 improvements due to Talking Points were increased engagement, improved attitudes toward the school, and increased knowledge of behavior at school. So they feel more a part of the school. They have better attitudes towards how they feel about this school. That all helps to build the confidence in teachers. It helps to open relationships and bonding so that they feel like they're a part of the system and not just looking from the outside. And that's really a theme that we're going to continue to talk a little bit more about today. And I wanted to share a special message from Dr. Karen Mapp. So some of you may be aware of Dr. Karen Mapp. She did a ton of work on dual family engagement, and she is one of our most esteemed, most trusted strategic advisors. She has done an incredible amount of research in the family engagement field. She's done the research, she's done some impact strategies, she teaches a class at Harvard on family engagement. She really is one of the leading experts in what makes effective family engagement in schools tick. And we asked her specifically how she feels about teacher retention, family engagement, all of that. And I wanted to share the quick message that she had.
That's huge. Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about, you spend a lot of money on building the professional capacity of your teachers to only have them leave in 3 or 4 years. That's devastating to a district. So if we know we have research now that shows that teachers stay at schools where there's a strong family engagement culture. I mean, I've walked into those buildings around the country that have a strong family engagement culture and had the teachers say, "Oh no, I'm never going to leave the school." There's no way. I mean, we actually have a video of a principal and teachers in Baltimore, in Washington D.C. that we did for a online course that I developed some years back, where the principal says, "I don't ever want to leave this school. This school is like family. Why would I leave here?" One of the teachers saying, "I could never leave this school. I would never hear the end of it." Right now, one of that principal, she ended up getting promoted, but boy, she told me it was hard. She got promoted to a district level. She said, but it was really hard. She did not want to leave that school. So imagine you have a culture like that, where your staff doesn't want to leave and wants to learn and wants to grow. That's a serious consideration for a pretty substantive return on investment.
All right. So that's powerful statements. And everybody's kind of aware of this anyways. When you're in a school where there's a good relationship between parents, families, and not just the PTO or the PTA, every school seems to have their own level of strong family engagement from a few parents. But we're going to talk today about some strategies for how you include, and how we can include all families and really build on the family engagement that your school has, and how to build a strong culture between your teachers, your families, your school, and your families, so the teachers will want to stay, so that there's a strong culture at the school. So research shows us that some of the biggest barriers to family engagement are, and you'll hear Dr. Karen Mapp talk a lot about these, you'll hear these in pieces around, but kind of pulling them all together, and some of the things that we're going to address today are: number one, language. I think that's the one, if you know anything about Talking Points, that we're known for solving. We do have translation, we have communication platform. But so that's one that we can definitely talk about a little bit more, but also generational disrespect. So there's a lot of families who feel like the education system in the past has just been against families, or they don't feel included, or they don't know what's going on, or there's educational barriers where they don't understand. So when we say, hey, bring Brian and for an IEP meeting, they feel excluded because they don't even know what an IEP is. There's a lot of acronyms that float around. So we're going to talk about that. And then time. So a lot of parents, a lot of families want to be involved with what's going on in their children's school, but there's only so many hours in the day, and they really have to maximize the time that they spend. And then the last one, educational knowledge. So that one we talked about a little bit when I talked about generational disrespect, but just not knowing what you don't know. We use a lot of acronyms. We use a lot of terminology in the education industry that really puts us in a place where families don't know what to ask, and they don't know what to say, and they don't know what they don't know. So one of the first things, and one of the things that Dr. Karen Mapps talks about so much, is before we start on those transactional messages with families, you really need to make an attempt to communicate with families and build authentic relationships from the beginning. So instead of sending out the first message of the year to families that just says, hey, school starts on May 25th, be there, you can have your teachers, have your staff try to go a little bit of an extra mile and do the things that they were already going to do, but just add a personal touch. So asking, saying, I'm so excited that Brian's coming to school this year. Here's a quick introduction about me. I'd love to know one fact about your family, or I'd love to have one picture of something that you guys did that was fun over the summer. Something that builds a little bit more of a personal level relationship besides just, I'm going to give you some information and here's the information I'm going to give you, and I hope you like it. The second thing is communicate with families often. So a lot of times we have the transactional level communications where we send out information, and it's sometimes once a month, it's sometimes once every couple of months. Parents appreciate being looped in often. So even just small things of today we did this, tomorrow we're going to do that, or on Fridays. We just want to celebrate that it's Friday and let everybody know we're just happy that we've ended the week on a positive note. Parents love types of messages like that because it just helps them feel involved. Also communicating the positive and the negative. So we see a lot of teachers and staff that there's one or the other of this, and it's very hard to get it right. So we see a lot of staff and teachers that only communicate with families when there's an issue in the classroom. And we all know that if you're the family that's only getting a call from the school whenever your child has done something wrong or is being punished or there's consequences, every time you see the number, you're just like, ugh, I roll. I don't want to take that call. I don't know what they're going to tell me now. Like, what did he do? And you're shocked when you get a call and it's a positive message. Like, hey, I just wanted to tell you that Brian did really well on his math test today. And then you're like waiting to see what else they're going to tell you. But having the positive and the negative communication really helps to show like, hey, I'm not only interested in talking to you about how we partner to get those positive reinforcements with your child, but I want to celebrate with you whenever there is something positive also. And I want you to know that we do have positive milestones. And then fostering two-way communication. So that's something that we are huge on here at Talking Points. We don't want one-way communication. So sending out a flyer, sending out an email, just everything flowing from the school to the family is not the way that good family engagement is built. Two-way communication where I say something, you say something back, I offer information, you offer information. That's really how you can build strong, authentic relationships with families. The next thing is to include the whole family. So you may have heard me a couple of times on the slide before this say parent. And that is totally one of the key players in family, in a student's life. But the whole family can really be involved in making sure that students have success and achievement and outcomes. So when you're talking to a parent or a family, understand each family's expectations and how their members can be involved in the strengths and weaknesses. So for example, I know that when I'm communicating with mom may not have the best track record with getting Brian to school on time, but I know that if I want Brian to come to school, all I got to do is text dad or message dad. So teachers know these things a little bit already, but make sure that teachers are tapping into the full family: grandma, grandpa, mom, dad. And the second bullet point that I have here is one really important way to find out who those key family players are: utilizing volunteers. So this is good not only to get help in your classroom, in your school, by using volunteers to do whatever, decorate the hallways, chaperone field trips, come have people introduce other people for career night. But it's also a way to involve parents and families in the school environment by letting them come in, letting them see what happens, introducing them to people. That's another way to build a connection in the school and to allow all of the family members to be involved and not just a parent. And then the third thing is share information for multi-generational households. So especially now in the US, we are seeing an increasing number of families where they have multi-generations living in one household. And there's a lot of things that presents opportunities for. So that's exactly where you get support from grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles. All of those people are there to help the student. And they're also there to be involved in the school. The third thing, this one's very, very close to my heart. This actually came from whenever I was working in the school system, and I had an amazing family engagement coordinator. I'm sure every school has it different. So family engagement specialist or family coordinator, parent coordinator, everybody's got that one person that's amazing at building those relationships. And every day I would have a mom come in and I would say, oh, hey, Mike's mom, and hey, Mike's mom, did you get that paper? And she pulled me aside one day and she was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, it's not Mike's mom, it's Janice. She has a name, she is a person, and we don't want to just call her Mike's mom all the time. And it really clicked with me that parents are people too. We look at them as kind of an extension of their students sometimes, but they really are individual and unique parents. And if you're a parent, you know that you are a totally separate person from your child. So keeping that in mind, that parents are people too, and then utilizing the family engagement specialists at your school or in your district to facilitate mom or dad's needs. There's a lot of resources that the schools and schools are seen to hold that we can connect with families. So for example, career nights for parents, not just students, or resources like clothing drives in the community. These are all important ways that schools serve to connect parents, families with the things that they need. And then also celebrating their milestones. So there was a lot of times in our schools where parents would just want to be happy about a new job or something that was going on in the community. And we as a school celebrated that as well. And then the last one is to just give specific tasks and milestones. We as educators know this, we learn this in college, but sometimes it just starts to slip because we get a little busy. But families sometimes need the basic information about how the education system works. So I referred to the term IEP whenever we started. IEP, 504, all of those terms that we use on a regular basis with each other, PLC, we have so many acronyms, we have so many terms. And when we use those with families, it's important to remind them what those stand for. Take the time to explain what an IEP is. Take the time to explain what the process is going to look like for enrollment. take the time to explain like how a child checks out a book from the library and how long they can keep it. Like all of those things that we already know about the education system, families are very interested to be involved with. The other thing is providing accurate descriptions and documentation of where a child should be performing. This should come as no shock to anybody, but everybody thinks that their child is amazing and gifted, and they're going to be a Picasso, and that can absolutely be true. But our job as educators is to make sure that parents know exactly where their child is performing, exactly where their student has opportunities for growth, exactly where they're doing really well at. And you have to be specific. So it's not just, yeah, they're good at math. It's, hey, they're really struggling with place value. And these are the things that you can do to help with that at home. Or I've noticed that they're not reading as quickly as some of the other students in the class. Here are some things you can do at home. Which leads us to the third bullet here, which is give very specific instructions of things to do at home. It doesn't have to be out of the way, but most families, most parents want to help their child do something. They're just not exactly sure. Not everybody went to college to study child development and education for 4 years, right? So they want to help, they want to be involved. They just don't know what to do. So being specific on how you can help their child at home. I remember whenever my daughter was in kindergarten and she was struggling a little bit with reading, and her teacher asked, what does she like to do? And I was like, I don't know. She really just likes to watch PBS after school for a little bit and then have snacks. That's what she really likes to do. And she was like, why don't you just try, there's a good study that I just read about turning on closed captioning while she's watching TV. And then that's just something she's already doing, and having closed captioning, it allows her to see the words. And I immediately thought that's such a good idea. I never thought about it. It fits into her schedule as it is. And it was just very specific feedback that I really appreciated and liked. So I've said a lot about building out those family engagement strategies between teachers and families so that we can get to a better positive culture. I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Andrew, to talk a little bit about talking points and how to do that specifically within the platform.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Jamie's talk over the last 15 minutes or so really articulates some of the passion and progress and strategy that we hope people use talking points as a vehicle to be able to promote in their own spaces. It's about empowerment, whether that's for teachers and staff, for families, and then what that empowerment really does for kids. We're going to talk about the tech side here in the last 5 minutes or so to try and kind of share with you the capabilities we have to be able to provide that framework for you. So Talking Points is a two-way family engagement communication application, which you probably all know since you're here, with the unique ability to translate into 145 languages. So what that allows us to do is to begin removing those barriers of entry that certain families have in participating in their child's education. So how do we do that? We work with you, we roster your students and family contact data and information, home language being one of those fields, via system integration. And we send out an initial message via Talking Points, which we'll show you here in a second. And what that does is immediately give you two-way access to your families and your families two-way access to you. So they can engage in those conversations that Jamie was talking about. You can share logistical information and updates about student progress. They can reach out to you and discuss why their student might be struggling this week or something that could be going on at home that you need to be aware of. So those bonds of connection start to strengthen, and the support system, you all start to function as a team with your families, as opposed to people that you engage, to Jamie's point, when you have to or when you need to. It becomes a constant state of being and interaction between both parties, and that provides the best opportunity for kids. Go ahead, thank you. So that initial message, we are an opt-out platform, which means that based on that rostering process I discussed earlier, that positions you to be able to send your first initial message to a parent. That message is received via text message in all capacities as a first-time message. That first message gives the family the ability to download our family application if they choose to. I think it's like 86-87% of our users choose text to remain as their primary vehicle. But if they choose to download that parent application, we provide that link here, give them that context. Now, notice this message is in English, but because we've rostered that home language for each family contact, this message that you're seeing right here is going to be translated into the appropriate language for that individual family. The unique thing about it too is if they choose to go to that mobile app, and this is something that I don't think anybody else does this. Not only do we provide translations within that mobile application, we actually translate the app itself. So when the family gets to the application and they're trying to make sense of where do I go, what do I do, how do I execute on this, the entire application is going to be displayed in their home language as well. Go ahead and skip. These are some, what's that?
I said, ta-da.
Yeah. So here's some screenshots of what that looks like for the family, both on the text messaging side and the family mobile app and web app. So we provide both for very simplistic reasons. The idea is that we want to meet families where they are. We want them to be able to determine what their mode of communication is going to look like. So really there's three options. There's the text messaging side, which you see on the left for both Android and iOS. And then there's the mobile application side, which you see on the right. And then all the way on the right is what we call the web application. So it really creates a device agnostic environment. So I could have a flip phone from 2002, as long as it can receive a text message, I can utilize Talking Points. If I want to utilize it on an iPad or a smartphone or potentially a laptop, we provide those opportunities for folks as well. The idea being that nearly all families have at least some mode that they can communicate. We want them to use what's most comfortable for them, which is why we provide in multiple modalities. Go ahead. Thank you. And we talked about the mobile app a little bit. So one of the reasons that people come to us, and you can really see it within the mobile application and via the text as well, is that it's our top quality translation support. So every other platform that's out there uses a baseline machine translation model. Talking Points has created our own machine learning platform that we use AI to positively impact over time. So what we've done is we've actually hired human translators. They have the ability to review messages that you schedule out for family members. If you want to schedule a message 24 hours in advance, those human translators will vet that content, make edits, and every time a human translator influences a translation in our platform, it influences our AI model, which makes our translation more intelligent to the education space. Jamie talked a little bit about the contextualizing education terms like IEP and things like that. Our human translators aid that support as well. So we're constantly building a model that's continuing to grow and lowering that barrier of interaction for those families when it comes to, like she said, understanding the education system. And that leads to some really pretty awesome results. I love Talking Points because of its simplicity. I work here from my home all day long. I get text messages that I act and react to almost on a regular basis throughout the day. I don't digest my email or necessarily answer phone calls all day long. So those things don't necessarily happen in the moment. Text becomes the most quick and easy way to get a reaction from families, and our teachers are pretty adamant about its impact on what they do. And then, yeah, it's kind of a continuation along that, just real-time updates, real-time influence, right? As a bond of interaction between home and school, we're able to collaborate as regularly or really as irregularly as needed and in the moment. And that allows us to be super actionable. It allows us for us to make changes and develop supports for those students as needed, as opposed to having to tackle something later or wait for communication to be seen or read or heard. And parents love that. They love that the teachers are keeping them up to date and that they're working to either create improvements or scale positives, whatever those might be.
Great.
Yeah.
And again, we are not saying that that family engagement is going to solve all of the teacher retention crisis across the country. We all know that there are multiple things that are happening right now with teachers in the field. I just know personally that when you are very, very happy with the culture of your school, it makes coming to work every day that much more enjoyable. And we definitely have seen, think back to your first year in the education field when you were just terrified to have a parent meeting or a family meeting. And then you just gradually ease up as you start realizing that parents and families can be there to be a partner with you. And that's what we want to get back to, is having that strong family engagement culture at a school. So following today, you can find out more information about Talking Points at talkingpoints.org. We'll also be sending out an email with some additional resources. I really want to include that study from Merrimack College as well, just because I think it's super insightful and shows how much small things like the relationship with parents and families can have on the influence with a teacher's decision to stay or go. And we'll send you some more information about Talking Points in general. But time for questions. Andrew, do you want to take any, did you see any?
We had one that asked about sharing the presentation, which we will do and follow up. And then we just got a really positive comment from Karina, I think. So it wasn't a question, but we appreciate it. She just said you did a great job.
Oh, awesome. Well, if you do have any follow-up questions, we have a really good team of account executives that are ready, and you can talk to your account executive. Most of us here at Talking Points are out of the education field and or parents, or both. And so if you have questions specifically about this or about any other issues that you think that Talking Points could help out with, they are on standby. We have our next Lunch and Learn webinar in 2 weeks. And on that one, we're going to be forward facing, looking forward to summer school and how to use family engagement to set up for success, how to use Talking Points to set up for success, and then talk to a couple of experts about some positive ways to start your summer school off to the right start. All right. Have a nice day, everyone, and we will see you next time.